challenge you, Anthony Joshua, to fight me, the Gypsy King, next!
The atmospheric pressure currently completely suffocating the global heavyweight and welterweight boxing landscapes has just violently, permanently shifted from a state of highly agonizing, entirely predictable promotional gridlock into a terrifying realm of absolute, multi-billion-dollar corporate warfare. When the massive, unprecedented Netflix broadcast beamed live from the incredibly massive Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London this past Saturday night, the global combat sports viewing audience was aggressively sold a highly specific, heavily sanitized narrative. The casual, uneducated boxing fan watched Tyson Fury effortlessly, mathematically dismantle the incredibly dangerous, heavy-handed Russian powerhouse Arslanbek Makhmudov over 12 grueling rounds. On that exact same canvas, just an hour earlier, they watched the explosive Conor Benn absolutely outclass the highly experienced former champion Regis Prograis in a highly technical, brutal, unanimous decision victory. The mainstream sports media immediately, lazily framed this as a triumphant, flawless return to form for British boxing, a fun, heavily promoted Saturday night spectacle on a massive new streaming platform. But the actual boxing matches that took place inside that squared circle were completely, fundamentally irrelevant. The Makhmudov and Prograis fights were absolutely nothing more than incredibly expensive, highly publicized Trojan horses, massive, multi-million-dollar athletic distractions designed entirely to set the absolute perfect stage for the most ruthless, highly calculated, dual-pronged business maneuver in the entire modern era of the sport. The true, undeniable, industry-shattering events occurred the exact microsecond the final bells violently rang and Tyson Fury and Conor Benn aggressively seized the live Netflix microphones. The entire world watched in absolute, morbid fascination as two massive British superstars launched into what appeared to be completely unhinged, heavily manufactured WWE-style meltdowns, violently screaming directly at Anthony Joshua and Ryan Garcia, respectively. To the untrained eye, it looked like the chaotic, unpredictable ramblings of wildly erratic fighters fueled by intoxicating post-fight adrenaline. But when you completely strip away the chaotic, highly manufactured theatricality, entirely mute the deafening roar of the London crowd, and rigorously, coldly analyze the exact, horrifying legal, biological, and financial realities actively driving every single syllable, a deeply uncomfortable, intensely dark, and profoundly brilliant narrative violently emerges. This was absolutely, unequivocally not an emotional outburst from two wildly unpredictable fighters. This was an incredibly cold, highly calculated, coordinated corporate business ambush. Tyson Fury and Conor Benn are actively, aggressively weaponizing the massive 260 million subscriber global reach of a live, completely free Netflix broadcast to publicly corner their greatest rivals, entirely bypass highly restrictive broadcasting contracts, and aggressively force rival promoters into making the absolute biggest cross-platform mega fights in the entire history of human combat. To truly comprehend the sheer, staggering magnitude of the absolute contractual terrorism Tyson Fury just unleashed upon the Matchroom boxing boardroom, you first have to aggressively peel back the deeply guarded layers of international fight promotion. For over half a decade, the heavily demanded Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua heavyweight collision has been continuously, agonizingly blocked by the deeply entrenched corporate politics of rival television networks. Anthony Joshua is the absolute, undeniable crown jewel of Eddie Hearn's massive Matchroom boxing empire, heavily, legally chained to an incredibly lucrative, highly exclusive, multi-year broadcasting contract with DAZN. Tyson Fury, operating with the ruthless, cold-blooded calculus of a billionaire corporate CEO, completely, brilliantly recognized that he absolutely does not possess the luxury of time to engage in a grueling, 3-year legal proxy war with DAZN. In an act of absolute, pure, unadulterated promotional defiance, Fury actively utilized the exact moment of maximum global viewership on the world's absolute largest streaming platform to execute a highly visible, multi-million-dollar corporate hostage situation. When Fury pointed his incredibly massive, heavily taped finger directly at Anthony Joshua, sitting uncomfortably at ringside, and loudly roared his devastating challenge, he was actively, mathematically trapping Joshua in the incredibly unforgiving, highly toxic court of public opinion. The visual optics of the biggest biggest star in heavyweight history, willingly, loudly demanding the fight on live global television, completely destroys the carefully curated corporate illusion of promotional difficulty. Fury brilliantly, maliciously shifted the entire suffocating weight of the blame directly onto Joshua's massive shoulders. If Anthony Joshua or his promoters attempt to aggressively hide behind the highly restrictive DAZN broadcasting paywall, now they will instantly, irreversibly look like completely terrified, deeply fragile cowards actively running from the ultimate challenge. Fury's entirely manufactured, highly theatrical meltdown was a perfectly executed psychological trap designed to aggressively force Anthony Joshua to publicly surrender or entirely forfeit his historical legacy. But why exactly is this happening right now? The answer lies entirely within the brutally unforgiving tape of his performance against Makhmudov, and it connects directly to the absolute, undeniable laws of human biology. Tyson Fury is 37 years old. Let that incredibly heavy, biologically devastating number completely, terrifyingly sink into your analytical framework. He is absolutely not the incredibly elusive, mathematically flawless phenom who effortlessly dethroned Vladimir Klitschko. While the judges correctly awarded him a massive shutout victory, the deeply educated corners of the boxing ecosystem recognized the horrifying, microscopic cracks violently appearing in his absolute armor. Even against a painfully slow, entirely predictable opponent like Makhmudov, Tyson Fury's highly specialized neurological pathways required to successfully execute complex defensive motor functions were visibly, irreversibly slowing down. In the incredibly grueling middle rounds, the stadium watched as Fury was forced to actively initiate heavy clinches to take deep, agonizing, gulping breaths. The incredible, highly explosive fast-twitch muscle fibers that once allowed him to violently explode into his signature combinations are mathematically, biologically decaying with every single passing month. Fury knows with absolute, mathematically proven certainty that he possesses exactly one massive, historic, world-stopping mega fight left inside his incredibly heavy, heavily damaged body before his punch resistance completely shatters. The unhinged Netflix call-out was not fueled by genuine anger. It was entirely aggressively fueled by the horrifying, unadulterated desperation of an aging king who can actively feel his physical empire crumbling, frantically attempting to cash out his absolute maximum chips before his biological clock violently runs out. While the entire global media was actively hyperventilating over the massive heavyweight drama, a far more insidious, highly volatile, and deeply controversial corporate proxy war was violently detonated on the exact same canvas just hours earlier. After completely outclassing Regis Prograis with surgical, breathtaking precision, Conor Benn aggressively grabbed the Netflix microphone and violently launched a highly targeted, meticulously planned verbal nuclear strike directly at Ryan Garcia. To the casual audience, this just looked like a standard, highly aggressive post-fight call-out between two prime-aged, incredibly fast, explosive welterweights looking to secure a massive payday. But when you deeply analyze the horrific corporate politics happening entirely behind the scenes, the absolute sheer genius of this specific call-out violently reveals itself. Conor Benn is actively positioning himself as the ultimate British crossover star, completely shedding the controversies of his past and aiming directly at the absolute biggest, most highly viral, massively lucrative cash cow, currently operating under the Golden Boy Promotions and DAZN banner. Ryan Garcia is the lifeblood of Oscar de la Hoya's promotional company by actively calling out Garcia on a massive, globally accessible Netflix broadcast entirely backed by the unfathomable wealth of the Saudi sovereign funds. Benn is orchestrating a highly calculated, heavily funded corporate ambush designed to entirely humiliate DAZN and mathematically steal their most valuable asset. This highly optimized trap relies entirely on Ryan Garcia's deeply documented, highly volatile, completely emotionally reactive psychological profile. Conor Benn and his management mathematically calculated that if they publicly, violently disrespected Garcia in front of 260 million streaming subscribers, actively mocking his speed and questioning his heart, Garcia's massive, highly fragile ego would absolutely, fundamentally refuse to ignore it. They actively banked on his complete inability to maintain corporate discipline, and they were absolutely terrifyingly correct. The exact microsecond the heavily publicized call-out left Conor Benn's lips and flooded the social media algorithms, Ryan Garcia completely swallowed the bait. Operating entirely on pure, unadulterated, deeply chaotic emotion, Garcia aggressively grabbed his smartphone and instantly fired back on X, publicly, loudly accepting the fight in a highly aggressive, heavily capitalized, completely unhinged rant. Garcia explicitly told his tens of millions of followers that he was absolutely down to destroy Benn, actively promising to travel to London and knock him completely unconscious in front of his home crowd. The exact moment Ryan Garcia hit send on that highly reactive, entirely unapproved Twitter post, absolute corporate pandemonium violently erupted inside the heavily guarded executive suites of Golden Boy Promotions and DAZN. Garcia essentially, accidentally completely bypassed his entire multi-million-dollar promotional and legal team, actively negotiating a massive cross-promotional mega fight directly in the public square. This is the absolute ultimate nightmare scenario for traditional boxing promoters. Oscar De La Hoya and the DAZN executives are desperately attempting to maintain absolute iron-fisted control over Ryan Garcia's highly lucrative career trajectory. They want to carefully, mathematically manage his risk, keeping him strictly behind their heavily monetized paywalls to generate maximum, predictable subscription revenue. But Garcia, fueled by pure ego and actively manipulated by the brilliant psychological warfare of Conor Benn, has violently broken corporate protocol. By publicly, actively accepting the fight against Conor Benn on X, Garcia has mathematically cornered his own promoters. If DAZN and Golden Boy step in and attempt to block the fight now, heavily citing complex legal exclusivity clauses or restrictive network politics, they will be violently crucified by the global combat sports fan base. The narrative will instantly, irreversibly shift to an incredibly damaging paradigm. Ryan Garcia desperately wants to fight. Conor Benn is begging for the fight, but DAZN and Oscar De La Hoya are absolutely terrified of losing their biggest star to a Netflix broadcast. It is a massive, incredibly toxic public relations disaster entirely manufactured by a highly calculated post-fight interview. Conor Benn's Netflix call-out was not a simple athletic challenge. It was a highly sophisticated, algorithmic hostage situation designed to mathematically force DAZN to either surrender their greatest star to a cross-promotional superfight or actively, publicly betray their own fighter's wishes and completely destroy his street credibility. When you aggressively synthesize the massive, highly terrifying corporate implications of both the Tyson Fury heavyweight ambush and the Conor Benn welterweight nuclear strike, you begin to truly comprehend the absolute, unmitigated disaster currently unfolding for traditional boxing broadcasters. Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya, and the massive corporate entity of DAZN are currently fighting a completely unwinnable, highly destructive, two-front corporate war against the absolute most powerful, heavily funded disruptors in the entire history of global entertainment. Eddie Hearn is currently trapped in the absolute most agonizing, multi-billion-dollar paradox in modern sports history. On one hand, his heavyweight crown jewel, Anthony Joshua, has been violently hijacked by Tyson Fury and mathematically forced into a massive Netflix/Saudi co-promotion that entirely bypasses Hearn's exclusive DAZN framework. On the other hand, his welterweight star, Conor Benn, is actively utilizing that exact same Netflix platform to brilliantly hijack Ryan Garcia away from Golden Boy. On the absolute highest, most globally visible level of the sport, the traditional promoters are dealing with Tyson Fury and the massive, infinite financial resources of the Saudi sovereign wealth funds. His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh is actively, aggressively demanding the Anthony Joshua mega fight, utilizing the unprecedented global reach of Netflix to completely bypass DAZN's heavily guarded paywall. Fury has actively cornered their premier heavyweight, utilizing the horrifying, uncompromising reality of his own decaying biological clock to force an immediate $100 million showdown. Simultaneously, on the highly lucrative, extremely viral welterweight front, they are dealing with Conor Benn actively hijacking DAZN's most popular American star, entirely bypassing Golden Boy's corporate gatekeepers by starting a highly toxic, entirely public Twitter war that Ryan Garcia eagerly, foolishly engaged engaged in without consulting a single lawyer. The traditional boxing promoters are entirely, suffocatingly trapped. They built their massive, multi-billion-dollar business models on the foundational assumption of absolute, highly restrictive exclusivity. They believe that if they locked a fighter inside a long-term broadcasting contract, they completely, permanently owned their market value. But Netflix, the Saudi sovereign wealth funds, and incredibly savvy fighters like Fury and Benn are currently violently proving that traditional contracts are entirely, laughably obsolete when forcefully confronted with absolute, unfathomable global capital and the unprecedented, unstoppable distribution scale of the modern streaming revolution. This specific Netflix broadcast will be mathematically recorded in the history books not as a simple night of highly entertaining British boxing, but as the exact devastating corporate execution of the traditional pay-per-view model. The heavily paid corporate bean counters, the aggressive entertainment lawyers, and the deeply stubborn traditional promoters have completely, permanently lost control of the sport. Tyson Fury and Conor Benn did not simply win their respective boxing matches against Arslanbek Makhmudov and Regis Prograis. They successfully executed the absolute most brilliant, highly coordinated, multi-million-dollar corporate hijackings of the 21st century. They actively, willingly played the incredibly chaotic, highly volatile villains entirely to generate the massive, unprecedented global leverage required to successfully break the DAZN monopoly once and for all. They know with absolute, mathematically proven certainty that massive mega-fights against Anthony Joshua and Ryan Garcia, heavily co-promoted by the massive 260 million subscriber base of Netflix and the infinite oil wealth of Riyadh Season, will effortlessly generate guaranteed flat-fee payouts that completely eclipse anything traditional promoters can legally offer. They are completely bypassing the old, dying era of pay-per-view boxing and forcefully dragging their greatest rivals kicking and screaming into the massive, highly lucrative future of live streaming sports. The massive, multi-billion-dollar traps have been flawlessly sprung. The entire global combat sports ecosystem is actively watching with bated breath, and the highly protected landlords of the traditional boxing establishment suddenly find themselves completely locked outside of their own houses, entirely surrounded by streaming billionaires with absolutely nowhere left to hide.